All right, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to break down one of the absolute cornerstones of all mathematics, the function. Now, this might sound complicated, but trust me, it's really just the hidden rulebook that connects pretty much everything, from the flight of a rocket all the way to the price of your morning coffee.
So, what do these things have in common? Well, it all comes down to a predictable relationship. You've got one value, say the jet's altitude, and it changes based on another value, like its distance. There's a rule there, right? A connection. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and really uncover what those rules are, and more importantly, why they matter so much.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the basics, what is a relation, then we'll get into the all-important function rule. After that, we'll learn the language of functions, see how to put them to work, and finally, we'll wrap up by visualizing them with graphs. Let's get into it.
All right, first things first. Before we can even talk about functions, we have to understand their basic building block. It's something called a relation. And you can really think of it just like that. It's kind of the raw material, like the clay, that we use to build a function.
So what exactly is a relation? At its heart, it's really just any set of pairs. That's it. You just take something from one group, we'll call that the inputs, and you match it with something from another group, the outputs. Think about it like pairing up your socks or matching names to faces in a yearbook. Any connection, any pairing at all, boom, that's a relation.
Now, of course, in math, we like to have specific names for things, right? So these two groups have their own special terms. The domain, well, that's just the set of all the possible inputs, everything you can possibly start with. And the range, that's the set of all the possible outputs you can get. Simple as that. Domain is for inputs, range is for outputs.
Okay, let's make this super clear with a quick example. Take a look at this table. On the left, we have our inputs, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That whole set, that's our domain. And on the right, we have the outputs they're paired with, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And yep, you guessed it, that set is our range. See? Each input is just neatly paired up with an output. Okay, so we get it. Relations are just pairings. But here's the big question. What makes a relation a special type of relation called a function? Well, it all boils down to one single, absolutely critical rule. This is the rule that gives functions all their predictive power.
And here it is, the big rule. For a relation to be a function, every single input can lead to exactly one output. That's it. You can't put one thing in and get two different things out. It has to be consistent. It has to be predictable. One input, one and only one output. That is the heart of a function.
Think of it this way. A function is like a perfect vending machine. You press the button for B4, you know you're getting that specific bag of chips every single time. That's predictable. But a relation that isn't a function, that's like a broken vending machine. You press B4, and maybe you get chips, or maybe you get pretzels, or maybe you get nothing. It's unpredictable. The same input could give you multiple different results.
Okay, let's put this rule to the test with a real-world example. Everyone loves a coffee shop, right? So let's look at this menu. If we say the menu item is our input and the price is our output, is this relationship a function? Just take a second and think about that. So did you figure it out? The answer is yes, it absolutely is a function. Why? Because if you pick any item, let's say a latte, it has exactly one price, $4.75. A muffin has one price, $3. It's predictable. But what happens if we flip it around? What if the price is our input and the item is the output? Well, now, is it a function? The answer is a big no. And why not? Because if you put in the price $4.75, you get two possible outputs. It could be a latte or it could be a cappuccino. That breaks our number one rule. One input, multiple outputs, not a function.
Okay, so now that we've really got the main idea down, let's talk about how we write this stuff down. We need to learn the notation. And don't worry, it's really just a universal shorthand that mathematicians and scientists use so they can talk about these relationships without writing out a whole paragraph every time. You're going to see this all the time. Y equals f of x. Now I know, it might look a little intimidating at first, but let's break it down.
First off, how do you even say it?
Y is a function of x. And all that really means is that the output, y, depends on whatever input, x, we choose. So the f is just a name for our rule, kind of like a label. The x in the parentheses is our input, and the y is the final output we get. And one super important thing, those parentheses do not mean multiply. They're just there to hold our input. It's f of x, not f times x.
Okay, theory is great, but let's make this practical. I mean, it's one thing to understand the language, but we need to actually use it, right? So when we work with functions, there are generally two main things we do. We either evaluate them or we solve them. Let's start with evaluating. When someone asks you to evaluate a function, all they're really asking is for you to find the output for an input they give you. It's just like using that vending machine again. You're given an input, you plug it into the rule, and you see what single output pops out.
So let's try one. Say our function rule is f of x equals x squared plus 3x minus 4, and we're asked to evaluate it for x equals 2. All we do is we take that 2 and we substitute it in everywhere we see an x. So f of 2 becomes 2 squared plus 3 times 2 minus 4. We just do the math. 4 plus 6 is 10, minus 4 gives us 6. So our output is 6. See? Not so bad.
All right, so what about solving? Well, solving is just the reverse. This time, we know the output, and our job is to work backwards to find the input, or maybe even inputs, that could have made it. So, using our same function, if I asked you to solve for f of x equals 6, you'd be trying to figure out what value of x we plugged in to get that 6 as an answer. Okay, last section, and this is a really cool one. We're going to look at one of the most powerful ways to understand functions, by visualizing them. We're talking about graphs. A graph is amazing because it can show you thousands, even infinite, input-output pairs all at once, giving you a picture of the function's whole story. And there's this awesome little trick for graphs called the vertical line test. It's super simple. If you can take a vertical line, just imagine a pencil held straight up and down and slide it across the graph. And if that line ever touches the curve in more than one spot at the same time, it is not a function. It fails the test, because that would mean one x value, one input, has multiple y values or outputs. And we know that breaks the rule. Now, there's another test that's kind of a cousin to that one, the horizontal line test. This time, you're sliding a horizontal line up and down the graph. If it ever hits the curve more than once, it tells you something different. It tells you that multiple inputs can lead to the same output. Now, is it still a function? Absolutely. Remember our coffee shop? A latte and a cappuccino both cost $4.75. That's totally fine. This test just tells us if a function has this special property of being one-to-one, which is something you'll definitely see later on.
So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway? Functions are just these predictable rules that connect an input to one single output. They bring order and predictability to a chaotic world. They're literally everywhere, from rocket science to your daily routine. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. What's a function or a rule in your own daily life that you totally rely on to be predictable?